Welcome, everyone, to the Leave Extraordinary Gentlemen podcast, episode 3. Yes, we are 3 episodes in. Who would have thought we got this far? We are recording this on September 29th. Today, it is Tuesday evening. We just finished up one of the worst debates in American history, but we're a sports podcast, so I'm going to be welcomed by my guests tonight, the owner of Juju on the Beat, Ben Gordon. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. How you doing? Happy to be
all
here.
Right. Ben is a former champion, our 2018 champ.
I think in 2016, right? Was it
at some point?
Like that? Yeah,
it got a couple of them.
Yeah.
You were a champ, though, I think, before our keeper started.
No, I think it was the first year.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I stand corrected.
Because I traded Hopkins for Brandon Marshall for no reason whatsoever.
Hopkins has been passed around. He's been passed around in this league. So, want to jump in? I mean, you are probably one of our more competitive, but also more controversial owners, to say the least.
Absolutely.
Likes to stir the pot a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a kick out of me having you on the show this week. And we're going to get started. We're going to start off with our week 3 recap. We'll actually start with your matchup, Ben. So you, Juju on the Beat at 2-1 now. You defeated Steve Knishin Kaiser, moving to 0-3. Ben holding up his Juju jersey. Final score of that one was 212.7 to 161.18. I've mentioned several times we are a very high-scoring league. 200 points is still an accomplishment. It can be done, but 212, most points so far this week, I believe so far this year. And my man, you are doing what every commentator is asking, and you are letting Russ cook.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, I looked at the draft kind of like the best quarterbacks were already off the board at the time, and the only chance I really had to compete with, you guys who have Mahomes and Jackson is to pick up a guy who has the potential of winning an MVP in Russ, and he's going off. I got to be really happy with it, especially in a really QB heavy league for 6 points per touchdown.
Yeah, you are definitely benefiting right now from having, as of right now, the league MVP going into week 4. And I want to move over to your opponent, Steve. He's 0-3, but he does look like a good team. I've mentioned this so far in the past 2 podcasts. His team, despite the auto draft, is actually pretty solid. It looks like, though, he's already starting to sell. I mean, what do you think there? Should he sell or should he stay put?
So, I've had this conversation with Steve today even, and kind of he was like, I'm not going to be selling. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. Steve's had the most points scored against him in the league. It's a tough thing to happen, but it's got to happen to someone. So that's really, against him. But I think he's got a pretty good team. He's got a lot of decent, core wide receivers that, he's got Cooper. He has Metcalf. So I think he's got some talent. He's got some good RBs in Travis Henry. And I think his biggest problem is roster management. He's got 3 tight ends on his roster. That's just a no-no in general. I have 2, and I hate myself for it, and it's only because Kittle is hurt. He's got 3 quarterbacks, I'm pretty sure, and he's got 2 defenses. So he's got like 1 guy who's a position player on his bench. It's just he's got the team to make the playoffs. He just needs to make some moves and really get those guys out of there. You don't need 3 quarterbacks. I only have 1 quarterback on my roster. Just things like that. I think he's got a chance, though. His team is solid, especially compared to some of the bottom half teams.
It's funny that you mentioned tight ends, because our next matchup here is Bend It Like Beckham beating Thibaut Warndus. Bend It Like Beckham moving to 2-1. Thibaut Warndus, as I had warned all of you that he was in for a rude awakening, is down to 2-1. Bend It Like Beckham wins 188.12 to 99.32. And congratulations, Thibaut Warndus in Eric. You win Stinker of the Week.
Boo! You stink!
And not just that, you were also on the wrong side of the biggest blowout, so you win $20 of Fab bonus. Congratulations, Eric. So the reason why I bring him up with that 3 tight end rostering from Steve is because Thibaut Warndus has the beautiful 2 tight end starters. He is starting Tyler Higbee and Noah Fant in his flex. So we got to look at Ben like Beckham, another powerhouse in this league. Fama and Greenwood are going to be as good as the injuries are going to let them because they do have a very injury-riddled team. Right now, they've been able to stay healthy. They've got Odell Beckham, who's had his injury problems. He has James Conner, who has the injury problems. He's got Alvin Kamara, who has had injury problems last year. T.Y. Hilton. I mean, that's 4 of his top players, who all of which I believe missed time in 2019. So, I mean, his team is going to be only as good as his team stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kamara and his keepers, I'm pretty sure he kept Kamara, OBJ, and Connor. Great keepers, some of the best in the league by far. I think the one thing you got to look for is Kamara. As you mentioned, is injury prone, but he's just playing on another level at this point. And I do think some of his targets will be taken away upon Thomas's return, which is something to look at. But he's still going to be a top 5 back, especially with all the injuries right now. I really do like Beckham's team. Again, their keepers are great, but they lack a little depth. Bye weeks are definitely going to hurt them, or any injuries as well. But I know that team. They're going to be buying at the trade deadline, and so they're going to be able to bring in the depth that they need to really go deep into the playoffs.
All right, we'll move on to our third matchup now, which is my team, Rivers of Babylon, moving out to 3-0. I defeated Alejandro's team more than a Thielen. He moves to 1-2 in a really crappy matchup. I won 126.88 to 101.58, and you are laughing, Ben, but screw you, because I'm going to pull out my entire bench right now, which was Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Raheem Mostert, Christian McCaffrey, and Le'Veon Bell. I had to start Jerry Jeudy, Myles Gaskin, Adrian Peterson, and Mecole Hardman, and I still would have lost in the majority of the league, but I will take that 3-0 start.
Honestly, kudos to you, man. Like, you were in a really tough matchup. Your whole team essentially was hurt, and even Waller, one of your studs, didn't even perform, and you still were able to pull off like a really great win against a team that obviously isn't doing too well, but he had all his starters. I'll say that.
Looking at Alejandro's team, I mean, we mentioned it. He scored 101 points, just barely over being stinker of the week this week. Do you think we'll talk about this one team? We already said Steve should stay in it, but Alejandro, is it time for him to look towards 2021?
So Alejandro is one of my good friends. His last name is Butters, actually. That is his real last name. It is Butters. I've known Alejandro since I was 14. Yeah. Again, he's got a great keeper in Thielen for a couple of years to go still, and he's got CeeDee Lamb, I'm pretty sure, a little bit later. He does like a lot of his younger wide receivers, just from talking to him. And Gallup, he really is big on Gallup, and he loves A.J. Brown. And what can you do? I think he'll be happy with his team next year and selling right now.
And our next matchup was our closest one. We were all watching this going down to Monday night. Trophy Engravers moving to 3-0, defeating Josh and Jews Rule the World. Ready for this? 179.98 to 179.46. By far our best matchup. Josh was one Mark Andrews catch away, which he ended up not only he fumbled and he dropped the catch in the end zone. And despite Josh being 0-3, I want to take a look quickly at his upcoming schedule because I'm hoping that he watches this. He's already been talking about selling. He's already talked about trying to move Michael Thomas.
Of course.
But his upcoming schedule is more than a Thielen, who just only scored 100 points. Nick's 88, who's decent, but I still think Josh can beat him. Bend it like Beckham, who's going to be a challenge. But then Nick's 89, followed by Knish and Kaiser. And looking at that, I think he easily can win 4 of those 5 and be 500 by week 8. What do you think?
In terms of him being able to win, I think he beats Butters, pretty easily. And Nick's 88, I don't think he'll have much trouble. But I think, like you said, he might have a little bit of trouble with the other teams. He can still make the playoffs.
You just got to get in.
Absolutely. Everyone's close. Again, he's got to win some of those 50-50 matchups, and they're going to be a little difficult.
And let's talk about our first place team, the Trophy Engravers, sitting just 0.72 points ahead of you, Ben, for the point leader. You do sit in third place with that one loss, which you still blame on your schedule despite being the lowest scoring team.
It's still my schedule's fault. No, it's okay.
And now I'm going to ask you, do you have enough to beat his dynamic duo of Dak Prescott and Aaron Jones?
I just feel like if you really look at my team right now, I have a lot of depth. So I can really handle, big things like the potential games being suspended this weekend. I might have 6 players not playing who we're not expecting them to be out this week. But I think I probably have the depth still to compete at a high level against you with my bench.
And our next matchup is Nick's 88 getting his first victory of the year, beating Ryan, Toe Jam and Earl. Both teams now 1-2. Nick's 88 defeated Toe Jam and Earl 124.1 to 100.6. And my first note here, Ryan has already traded Todd Gurley. Once again, is this the end for him?
You know,
keep a straight face talking about him.
It's so like, it's so hard to think about because I looked at his moves that he made in the offseason. I'm thinking this guy's a genius. He's trading picks away. He's moving out of the first round because he doesn't like the players, and he's picking up more picks. But then he uses these picks on guys like Christian Kirk in the fourth round, where I'm in a 14-team league, 14 teams, keeper league, very deep, and he's going in the sixth round. I'm in 12th round, 12-round league, 12-player league, and he's going in the 12th and 14th round. Like, you got to let the draft come to you. And I understand if you like a guy and you want to make sure you get your guy, but he has too many guys that he likes so much, and he just continues to throw these draft picks that he's getting away. It's tough. And at this point, he's got to sell. He's already traded away half his team, unfortunately. I wouldn't. I know he's looking to trade Ridley. I wouldn't with keeper value like a fifth
you
round
definitely
pick.
can't trade Ridley.
But
he already offered him to me.
He's offered him to everyone. Again, it's just keepers are so important. If you look at the top teams in this league and teams that have been the top for years, Krause and Harriman had a lot of guys that they've kept over the years who are finally, this is their last kind of year to keep them. I've had guys and replenish my keepers generally every year. Bend it like Beckham. They've got great keepers. Trophy engravers who are now starting to step into the fold. They've got great keepers. People really underlook how important keepers are in this league.
All right, and our final matchup that we are going to recap is Nikhil's Knicks 89 goes to 2-1, defeating Milf and Cookies. They fall to 1-2. Final score of that one was 145.38 to 120.02. And looking at this matchup, Nick has surprised a lot of people. His draft day projections, according to Yahoo, had him at 3-10. Now, looking at his team, I think he's got a pretty solid team and is defying the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I hated him keeping Josh Allen. I was not a fan of Josh Allen coming into the season. I haven't been a fan of Josh Allen at all. But I was completely wrong on this one. He's been so good. But he didn't even start him last week. Like, what are you doing? You got to let him cook. Like, let him go.
And then looking at Milf and Cookies, defending champs, this kind of always happens. You mortgage your future to win a championship. He's 1-2. Looking at his upcoming schedule, he faces Condition Kaiser. He faces me. He faces you. So we're going to look towards week 6 after the matchup with you. Is he going to be 1-5 at that point?
Me, Krause, and Hammerman talk all the time about our teams and multiple fantasy sports over baseball, football, basketball. I really love their draft. I think from what they had, they didn't have much and they made the most of what they had. Keeping Hopkins, I wasn't really sure about, but it really worked out well. Getting Jacobs as well in the second round is a steal at this point. But I could see it happening. I could see them being competitive for sure. The fact is, you personally have no clue when your running backs will be back, unfortunately. So that it's more of a 50-50 matchup. Again, their roster is really, really good as well. I think they probably could beat Steve as well. I'm going to be honest. I don't really think they got much of a chance against me. I think my team's got a lot more depth, but I think your team healthy, you'd beat them as well. They also will probably make a million moves by the time they play each of us. They're always wheeling and dealing. Krause and Hammerman are some of the best owners in this league by far. They're
Absolutely.
thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead of you generally at all times. So
yep,
I think they have a chance, but it will be tough.
And that's our week 3 recap brought to you by Skittles. Taste the rainbow.
I wish I had Skittles. Here's my Skittles.
I'm just going to throw in a random sponsor at any point.
Hey, it will work one time. It will work.
So it'll either work or we'll get a cease and desist. One will happen.
Either way, we'll make some news, right?
So we're going to move ahead to our league storylines. My first one is a plea to the league. Read the rules. It's not that hard. How many trades have I had to veto already? Read the damn rules.
It's like once a week at this point.
Yep. And Ryan, stop texting me and read the rules. And we'll go on to our boneheaded move of the week. And by no surprise, It's Ryan B.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Traded Gurley and his 5, 8, and 13 for 4, 7, 11. So he moved up one spot from 5 to 4, moved up one spot from 8 to 7, and moved up 2 spots from 13 to 11 for Todd Gurley, who he probably could have just gotten a 4th for and called it a day.
I will say this. I did suggest to Josh that he go after Todd Gurley, and he did in a really great way, but I don't know what you're thinking there. Yeah, like you could have done it for a 4th and probably like a 10th back. Like,
I think we're going to set a record. I mean, granted, there are no records to set because this is a brand new podcast, but if Ryan's going to somehow win boneheaded move every single week, and I will find a way to get him there.
It's tough though. Like, he's running out of talent on his roster. Like, he's only got 1 or 2 more guys who he always says are untouchable, but I'm sure that he'll trade them first.
All right, we're going to move over to our Week 4 matchup preview. And first matchup we're going to look at this week is Milf and Cookies versus Kaddish and Kaiser. That is Hammerman and Kraus versus Steve Tidaldi. This is a 1-point matchup according to the Yahoo projections, and kind of took this even looking at the benches. So this is a matchup of cellar dwellers, as I called it, which is actually quite surprising when you put Kraus and Hammerman. You don't expect them to be at the bottom. Who do you have coming out on top? I mean, it's a 1-point spread here.
Yeah, I am assuming it's probably going to be Kraus and Harriman just based on they're just a little bit more of a solid team all around. One thing I do got to say is, can we get over the David Johnson being a top 10 running back thing? Because that's like one of the biggest arguments I have with Kraus every single year is David Johnson.
Always.
And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I literally offered him a trade at the beginning of the year. Nick Chubb, who they would have been a 2nd-round pick for them, instead of keeping him over David Johnson, and he fought me on it, and then we had a huge argument over who is better, Nick Chubb or David Johnson. And then after week 1, he was like, look who's better, Nick Chubb or David Johnson. I said, look who's better, Nick Chubb or David Johnson.
Saving the best for last is myself versus Ben. You still get to face me without CMC. You still get to face me without Bell. We still don't know the status of Devontae Adams or Julio Jones. You're going to luck out here.
We'll see. I might be without Juju, Cook, Fuller, Madsen, and Jefferson, which are 6 players from my roster. It sounds like they're probably going to have the game, so I'm excited. But also, we'll see. I think it will be a good matchup. If I have everyone, I think I should be able to pull it out.
Well, I do like that you're starting Mo Alley Cox. You got a nice Colt tight end there. But let's quickly glance at the running back matchup. As of right now, you would be starting Dalvin Cook and Chris Carson versus my Myles Gaskin and Adrian Peterson.
Which, by the way, I love the Gaskin pickup. I think it was a really great pickup. I saw him running on Thursday, watching the game against a pretty tough Jags defense, especially against the run. And he looks like he's definitely a good running back, and that's going to be some good keeper value right there.
He is. My only concern with him is one firm gust of wind will blow him over.
Yeah.
And 2, if he's going to score a touchdown, it's got to be a 30-yard touchdown, because once they get him to that goal line, it's going to be Jordan Howard.
Yeah, the whole time. It'll be interesting for sure.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us on Week 3's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen podcast. That's all the time we have for today. We will see you next week for Week 4. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.